Hey, seventh graders, welcome back from break. It's our first flip lesson. After break, we're going to be talking about the Articles of Confederation, which we should know by our vocabulary set this week is the first government that the United States ever had. So you should have your chart. Looks a little something like this. Should be on page 59 of your interactive notebook. All right, where you see the bolded or the underlined terms, those are going to fill in the blanks on your notes. All right, here we go. Get out of that. Make this bigger. So. All right, so the structure of the government. Now you got to remember one thing about the Articles of Confederation is this is a response to after the American Revolution. So the Americans, as we left off, won the American Revolution. They got rid of a king. They got rid of a parliament. They want to make a new government, and their government is going to be very, very kind of if king and parliament is over here, our government is going to be way off the camera over here. It's a reaction, right? We're not going to get rid of a king and create another king. We're not going to get rid of parliament and create a parliament exactly like the Parliament in England, all right? So there's going to be one branch of our government. That branch is going to be called Congress. It's a lawmaking body. It's an example of an assembly, all right? It's responsible for making laws. So look at how those vocabulary terms are kind of coming in. Each state, so there's 13 states, yes, you can call them states now, has one vote in the Congress. So if there's let's say there's a bill about raising taxes. Doesn't matter if you're a great big state like Virginia or an itty bitty little state like Delaware or New Jersey, you both have one vote. Congress can send, or that should say states rather, let me change that real quick. That should say states. Good thing I caught that and can make that change. States can send as many delegates or representatives to Congress as they want. They're technically delegates because there really isn't voting. The states can send as many as they want, so they're groups that are chosen. But again, if Virginia sends 1,000 and New Jersey only sends 2, doesn't matter that Virginia sent a whole ton. Both states are still only going to get one vote. So decision making. This is how, okay, so we've got this law. We're going to raise a tax because we need to pay for our military. That's our law, right? To get that law passed, 9 out of the 13 states have to agree or vote yes on that law. Now, that is a big difference from how we do things today. Today, you need a majority, which is 1 more than half. So technically, if we had majority rule in this, only 7 of the states would have to agree. So now you need to convince 2 more states than majority rule to agree to make something become a law. We also can change a law or change our Constitution today. They could do that with the Articles of Confederation, but it's pretty difficult to do. 13 out of the 13 states, so all 13 states had to agree to change an existing law or to change the government by itself. So let's say we created this tax and we found out the tax isn't good. In order to repeal or take back that law, all 13 states have to agree to it. Let's say we wanted to make a change and say, you know what, 9 out of 13 states is too much. We want to break that down to 7. All 9 states have to agree. That's going to make it kind of tough to pass some laws, but they kind of wanted to make sure that everybody was positive that this should be a law or this should be a change before they did anything differently. All right, economic. Remember, the government or the American Revolution was a lot of economic issue with taxes, so they spent a lot of time telling specifically what the government could do economically. Number 1, Congress could not tax the states. I will say that again. Congress had no power to tax the states, but they could ask for money from the states. So you could not take money from the states through a law. So that law that we were trying to make earlier, ooh, I dropped my pen. That law that we were trying to make earlier can't really be a law. We could ask those states, but Congress cannot make the states pay a tax. The states could borrow money if they needed to from a government, from a bank, whatever. All right. Each state had its own currency or its own printed money. So you know how when you go to Canada or you go to another country, you can get Canadian money or French francs or Mexican pesos, something like that. New York had its New York money, and Pennsylvania had its Pennsylvania money, and they were completely different, and they had different values. All right, so just kind of like going to a different country, but each state was kind of like its own little country. All right, each state would regulate or control trade with other states. So if New York could pass a law that said anything coming from Pennsylvania will be taxed 20%. And then Pennsylvania could say anything traded from New York and Pennsylvania could be taxed 30%. The Congress couldn't do anything about it. All right, only the states could regulate trade with other states, and each state could tax its own residents. The states themselves could create taxes. The federal government, the national government could not. All right, protection. Congress can make treaties with other countries and natives. So if, for example, when we negotiated the Treaty of Paris, that was the Congress. Now, this Congress had been around. All right, the Continental Congress was created to kind of run the war effort. As we know from the war effort, they had their issues, but that was our government. That was what was working with Congress, and they're going to work with any issues with Native Americans and things like that. The Congress can appoint military officers. So the Continental Congress said, hey, George Washington, you're the general of the Continental Army. And then George Washington could name his other generals, and Congress would approve those. The state could establish militias. So this is a little bit tricky. The Continental Army itself was technically coming from the states because they were state militias. So there was no kind of federal American army. It was going to be state militias. All right. Congress can raise an army and declare war. All right, so if there was any issue, it wasn't like New York is going to attack Britain. It would be all of the states coming together to raise an army and declare a war. But again, remember, in order to declare a war, you got to have 9 of those 13 states agree that we should be going to war. All right, there you have it. That's our flip lesson for today. Make sure you answer those questions. Make sure you're getting 5 out of 5. Any questions, hit me up on Schoology, or lots of chatter over the last week with people putting stuff on there, good and bad. We'll talk about that in class. But make sure that any questions you're posting on there. All right, see you guys later.